Here we go. Give us a shout, Simon, if you can't hear me, because you're attached at the moment because I just need to put some fuel in my phone. Right, we're live Sunday evening, and it is 6 o'clock. Just about.
Just ticked over. Yeah, we're early actually.
That clock is slow. Oh, hello. I hope you've got your orange on this evening, whoever you are. Come in.
It's Orange Sunday, which sounds very political, but it's not in any way.
It's not a Dutch person around.
No.
Evening, everybody. 6 o'clock on a Sunday evening. Where would you want to be other than right in front of your screen watching us natter on about goodness knows what this evening?
With a glass.
The sun is about to come out again, hopefully. Bit of a downpour this afternoon.
Yeah, it's
good for the tomatoes.
Duvet day for the pooch.
Good for the Tommies. Good for the vines.
Good for the vines, even at this stage.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Now's a good time.
Key growing time.
Yeah. But to be honest, there wasn't an awful lot of water, was there? Wasn't an awful lot of rain.
Cool. Was where I was stood.
Hello, Nettie.
Hi, Sam. Hi, Nettie. Hi, Luke. Good evening.
Must catch up with you, Nettie, soon.
Hi,
Luke.
We've gone for orange.
Orange.
Luke's got orange on his head. Yeah, that was
special pillows.
Finn's got it's red actually, but we're hoping you're slightly colourblind and it works.
As you can see by now, the dog is absolutely fit. So sick to back teeth of these.
So that's time again. Actually, he gets to lie down for a bit.
He does.
Hi, Tim and Emma. Hi, Penny. Hi,
evening, Clarky. Evening,
everyone's
Tom.
Very punctual this evening.
Hope you've got your wine on ice, everybody. Or not on ice, I shouldn't say ice, but nicely chilled.
Actually, yes, a good point. If you have the orange wine, make sure it's out of the fridge now. I assume that everyone's probably already halfway through the first glass. If not, thinking, hurry up, because we're going to need to open something else.
Come on. So, tonight, orange.
Orange.
Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? What do we say? Red, white, sparkling. Rosé and
orange. Yeah, it's good. It's different.
Yeah.
We hope that this orange wine is going to be a new experience for some of you guys.
Yep.
Assume it will be. We think it's a really lovely entry point as an example of how lovely orange wine can be.
Absolutely.
So hi Katrina, hi Lou, hi Claire.
Good evening, Claire. Hi Susanna.
And hi Karina.
And hi Karina or Katia, whatever. Katrina.
We struggle with these comments because this is so far away. So we're doing our best here.
Yeah.
So well, should we first of all pour a little glass and say cheers to everybody?
Absolutely. Right. If you haven't already poured it, the wine that we're showing this evening, for those of you who don't have the wine, I hope you can see that okay. It's called Baglio Antico, and it's from the west coast of Sicily. You see Catarato written on the grape there, 2019. 2019 is obviously the vintage, brand new vintage. And Catarato is the grape variety. And we will talk a little bit more about that. So, but the scariest thing about pouring this wine is its colour, woohoo, and the fact that it's pretty darn cloudy, woohoo. So, which in my book is a great thing.
I think the orange is great, and Pam is more of a cloudy's great. So the combination of the two and weeding out some really unusual wines, we decided to taste this one this evening. Yeah. But it really is all about orange wine generally. So
I'm just going to have a little cheers now.
Yeah. Cheers, everybody. Happy Sunday. Cheers, Finn.
Absolutely.
He was a good boy.
Oh. So just to point, actually, when you first open this bottle, first open this wine, your first sip may be a little bit sort of austere and a bit acidic, a little bit acidic. Tom Treadwell, I mentioned this to you the other day. It blows off after a few minutes, that kind of like little bit of acidity, and then you're left with this nice sort of like softness, kind of like sort of like pulpiness in actual fact. They say that you shouldn't chill orange wines right down to the absolute, nth degree. This has been in the fridge, and we've got a super cold fridge in actual fact. So
I took it out half an hour ago, though. In fairness,
very good.
I'm a stickler.
But nicely chill. I think it can hold the chill. What you don't want it, though, to be so cold that it masks the flavours.
Because it's all about the flavours.
It's all about the flavours.
So it has to be said, whilst we're talking of flavours, we have our lovely...
Oh, yeah. Doggy alert. Doggy alert.
Our lovely selection of food, which we got from the ladies at Russian Revels. So we've got our lovely Georgian aubergine and walnut rolls, which are amazing. We've obviously been nibbling these yesterday as well, and which are called Badrigiani, if I'm not mistaken.
Aubergine with a cranberry on top.
Then the it's not cranberry, it's a pomegranate.
Oh,
and
pomegranate.
then the khachapuri is the cheesy bread, which is Georgian as well. And we thought actually these would be really good accompaniments. So I know that at least Simon and Luke have got theirs.
Thank you, Russian Revels. We've been enjoying that.
But yes, it's nice to see Katrina here this evening as well. But this is fantastic. So this should be a really good food combination. But first of all, we probably need to go back to basics and,
what's it all about?
What is orange wine?
It's a movement. It's a movement.
Okay, so I'm much more open to these things.
It's not a movement. To be fair, actually, they've been making orange wine since the cows came home.
Since the cow was a cow. So 8,000 years, depending on what you read.
Arguably, any wine that was produced in a rather sort of oxidative way, i.e. not very controlled, would probably have been this colour. So imagine the Romans and the Greeks and what have you would have been drinking wine similar to this sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's basically just what happens is you chuck all of your grapes into a vessel, leave it for a while, then get the lumps out, and then that's your wine.
So do you want to show what these wines are made of? Whilst Jude shows you a little picture, I'll just tell you a little bit about this. So orange wine.
So I'm going back to ancient Georgia, okay?
Let's go back to ancient Georgia.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Go, Pam.
There we go.
That is a qvevri.
So it is suggested that actually the first orange wines, or the first wines were produced in Georgia, probably 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, give or take. And in those days, and even these days today, you get these amphoras, which are also known as
qvevri.
Crevery.
Well, it's kind of pronounced qvevri, but it's spelled Qvevri. So I feel obliged to give it a bit of a. I think it is just qvevri.
Anyway, for all intents and purposes, amphora, big, great
plant pots,
jars made of basically sort of like
clay,
a clay amphora. Often these days. This one here is above ground, but these days when you find them, they're kind of buried into the ground.
I can show you exactly what we're talking about there. Hang on, Finn, hold your horses. So in modern wineries, that was in the 1800s, that picture that you've just seen. But in modern wineries, you're looking
there they
at
go. They're underground, and that serves as another purpose in actual fact, because it's much better temperature control, particularly where these wines are being made, which is incredibly hot temperatures and what have you.
In Sicily.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So to talk a little bit about this wine, so what would have happened is that the grapes would have been picked by hand, everything done by hand. There would have been minimal amount of intervention. There would have been no pesticides, no herbicides, no nothing used. The grapes would have been picked at what we call optimum alcohol levels. So when they say they want to make 12.5% alcohol, then they measure the amount of sugar in the grape before they pick it, and from there on they can work out actually how much alcohol it's gonna produce. But essentially, the grapes literally just go straight in the amphora, and that is it. Literally, that is it. Mm-hmm. They don't touch them. They add nothing. The skin's in, everything's in. They might do a little sort of mix it around a bit. And essentially, those skins are going to break under their own weight. And once that happens, the oxygen in the air is actually sort of attacking the sugars in the fruit. And sooner or later, you've got an alcoholic fermentation starting.
With the natural yeast thing present as well.
The yeast in the air is attacking it, yeah. Mm-hmm. And sooner or later, you've got this natural fermentation going. You know you've got a fermentation going because the whole thing starts bubbling. Not at a very high temperature, probably 25, 28 degrees. But essentially, once that fermentation's finished, then you know that all the sugars, the natural sugars in the fruit has converted to alcohol, and you have wine. Mm-hmm. So the question is, what is so different and why is it orange? Jude's going to tell you.
Yeah, so, I mean, first of all, let's make sure everyone's given this a big swill, giving it a chance to open up. And if you tried it for the first time, I thought, whoa, try it for a second time, and it would probably have changed a little bit. Give it a good swell.
Real pungent smell. Think very ripe apples. Think ginger, kind of slight
Yeah, it is slightly
spiciness,
gingery. Yeah.
slight spiciness to it. And these are all sort of fairly obvious characteristics that you find in orange wine. You've got to have a very open mind with orange wine. It is a cult movement in certain sort of restaurant areas of London. We'll come on to that. But keep an open mind. Keep an open mind.
And this is, we have to say, this is at the more sort of, I think the word approachable is a bit stuffy, but it's the more easygoing end of the scale. But so it's orange. Or basically, we've talked about rosé, and rosé is red grapes.
Yep.
Where you've used red grapes and you've produced it in the style of a white wine.
Yep.
Orange is the opposite, really, isn't it?
Yes.
So you've got white grapes and you're producing it in the style of a red wine.
Yeah.
Which means instead of just extracting all the skins and everything, stalks and pips and all that sort of stuff straight away, you leave it in there. And
it all's in there. It's just all in there.
So there's colour
Just
imparted
like
from all of that mush.
Yeah.
Plus, it's produced in a more oxidative way, which means they let a bit more oxygen in the process.
Yeah.
So
my analogy, my favourite analogy of an apple. Some people might have heard me talking about this. It's very simple. Lovely, lovely, juicy apple. Bite into it. Put it on the table. 10 minutes later, what's it done? It's gone orange. Well, slightly browny, slightly.
You see what I mean?
Slightly discoloured.
Anything will go orange.
That is the effects of oxygen.
So it's the brownie hues to it as well.
Exactly.
So that's where the colour comes from, and it really is as simple as that.
Yep.
Orange wines do tend to be quite natural. Now, natural is a whole different...
Very natural.
Or very natural. But natural...
Good for the naturalists.
Natural, yeah.
Or the naturists.
Both.
Whichever.
I think if you're going to wander around naked, you're better having had a few glasses of wine. So...
Evening, Steve Roncontra.
And Evelyn, hi, and Kerry, nice to see you. I'm glad a few of you got the wine. I noticed Sarah White said, wow.
Wow.
What does everyone think? First impressions. Pop your comment on there because it'd be really interesting to know. Personally, I love it.
Reddish orange, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, custard cooling, time for a drink. Oh my goodness.
So
let's get back to where we were.
Colour, so orange wine, Georgia, that's where it all sort of began. But then it lost all popularity, and it's only since sort of the 90s, isn't it?
Yeah.
That it's grown again and become a bit of a cult thing.
Yeah.
It's very, very big in Italy.
Yeah.
Also Australia and New Zealand, Georgia still now and then. Now that is growing. In fact, between 2018 and 2019, Georgia's export of orange wine was up 54%.
Wow,
so that's huge because nobody wanted it before. So it's up to 50%.
That is interesting. And the vast majority of it is actually being sold in kind of like hip restaurants up in North London in places like
Hoxton, Johnston and stuff like that. Sorry, I was just reading comments. So there's first impressions coming through. People are interested. Michelle Clark says not keen, but now is when you have to remember that these wines are big and they need food.
Yeah.
So now I want you to all reach for your food thing. And I hope if you've been listening for weeks, then you know that even if it's not the food thing we suggested, you should have a food thing alongside you. So, Pam, would you like to try the Badrigiani?
I would love to.
So wine is the best way to establish.
Yeah, so taste the wine. Taste the wine. I don't know what you're eating, but eat something.
For God's sake. And then taste the wine again. Now, I think these aubergine and walnut rolls will be really good because they've got the earthy nuttiness and the aubergine have got that lovely kind of burntness. And there's quite a bit of flavour there, but it's not going to overwhelm. Sam's just said she made her own aubergine and walnut rolls. Sam, we want to see a picture. Well done, you. Very good effort. I was very happy to order in this evening.
Now, interesting. What it does is it makes the wine a little bit more zippy. So it pulls out the acidity. Kind of interesting.
Because the aubergine and walnut doesn't have any acidity, maybe.
So it makes it more obvious.
Yeah, so maybe it would be better with something with a little bit more acidity. So I'm going to make you try it with the cheesy bread next.
Okay.
But yeah, so as I was saying, in Italy, orange wines are really quite a big thing. It's almost like the centre of the movement at the moment. Just make sure that bit of black
Thank
is off your tooth. But yeah. And you might see the word on the label. It might not say orange wine. So it might say amato, which is Italian for kind of amber. So there are other. Is it amato? Hang on. Have I just said ramato?
Ramato,
Sorry.
tomato.
I think I'm thinking of a pub.
A very well known pub in Epsom, a racehorse, no less.
Which is not
Who
close.
said racing? Ooh.
Ramato, which means Auburn. Okay.
But just to
Go
go
on.
back a little bit, just to sort of so people completely understand why this is different to your standard white wine. So let's just take Chablis or Sauvignon Blanc as an example. White wines are taken when the wines are fermented. The grapes are brought into the winery, and they are basically drawn off their skins, so there is no skin contact.
Oh,
So
yes.
anybody knows what a grape looks like, a white grape or a green grape. There is no color in the juice, and anything that's any color is imparted by, well, age really. In white wine. So white wine actually has no color in it. It's just literally the juice of the grapes. And just to reiterate again, so the orange wine is actually fermented on its skins and in this oxidative manner. And it's the air, it's the oxygen that's really producing this very sort of oxidized style. Again, a bit like that apple. It's very open to the elements. And this is what you end up with. But moving forwards from that, is why is it cloudy? Why is it cloudy? And this is all about the fact that actually it is just so natural. So as we said, they go into their amphoras and they do absolutely nothing. You know, arguably the winemaker, I mean, I don't know what he does really to make his money.
Marketing.
Earn his money.
Marketing.
He sits back and has a lovely time.
Designs labels, yeah.
But when the wine is actually ready for bottling, it's literally siphoned out of the amphora, out of the big sort of jug thingy, and it's bottled. It doesn't go through any filtration, no fining, no filtration, no nothing. And so this is why you get this sort of cloudiness, which, you know, it may settle, but I mean, certainly the first time we tasted this about 10 days ago, we looked at it and thought, interesting. Now, it is actually cloudy, but it hasn't actually got any sort of residual bits in it, I don't think. But
no, it's not lumpy.
It's just even if it does, you know, so what? That's how it is.
So I put together quite a funny slide actually.
Yeah.
Because I've got to the hang of this thing.
Okay.
Apart from it's a little bit more cumbersome than it probably should be, but
It's rather nice.
So I put together to give you an idea of your kind of natural winemaker versus your normal winemaker.
Yeah.
I've got a comparative picture here.
Yeah.
That's not it. Here we are. So there is Robert Mondavi on the left. He's your kind of classic. You've probably heard of him. If you haven't, he's
the godfather of the American wine movement.
He's pretty mega in America.
He's phenomenal.
And on the right side is
a weirdy beardy natural winemaker.
They tend to be younger generations.
Yeah. I suppose they're a bit like the sort of camera lot, aren't they?
A bit camera, a little bit vegan, a bit of all of that.
Probably now there's good clean, good wash.
There's obviously this is being totally generalizing massively, but it really is a bit of a hipster movement, which is fine actually, and it's kind of cool. And what they're really promoting is natural wine. Yeah. So no added sulfites or very minimal. You are allowed a small amount in there.
Yeah. So there's a really good question there, and actually, hello Faye. Tom Treadwell has asked, is there a downside to the lack of filtration and processing? Does it go off sooner? Well, it's nothing to do with the filtration and the fining, Tom. That doesn't have any effect on the development or the length of time. But it actually is. It's a very difficult methodology that is not consistent year on year because, remember, there's nothing going on in the winery as such. The grapes are just doing their thing. But also in the vineyard, and that's really the issue. The vineyard, they're not spraying, they're doing nothing to control. They are absolutely open to whatever the climate throws at them. And so it is kind of like, can they produce wines of consistency year on year? No. is the answer to that. They're going to produce wines year on year that are totally different from one year to the next, which makes it kind of exciting, but also kind of disappointing if you hit upon a really good vintage and then the next one's maybe not so good, or maybe just different. You're at the will of the gods, really.
To be said that there's has to be said for most of our producers who aren't necessarily natural, where the vintages of their wines actually represents what's going on in the world, not a commercial consistency. So everyone knows that the Kumala 2017 vintage of their Merlot is as good as the 20 whatever the next vintage was. So, and that's something that we, like Hannibal Brown, we're really all about, is
absolutely
small producers who work with a care for the environment and embrace what nature gives them. Basically.
So have we got a map of Sicily?
Oh yeah, sorry, here we are.
Let's just talk a little bit about the vino. Sorry if we're missing questions. We'll try and get back to them.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye. There's a lot going on here.
Robert Mondavi, that's Brian Johnson. It's Robert Mondavi, I promise you. Okay,
you should be able to see this.
Hopefully everybody knows this.
This is the boot.
That is the...
That's the ball.
That's the beautiful island of Sicily.
It's the ball on the end of the boot.
Oh, yes, I suppose it is. Yeah, is that what they call it? The ball?
I think that's the ball, isn't it?
So there are kind of like Sicily. Sicily is anybody who hasn't been to Sicily, or anybody who has been to Sicily, I'm sure you it's a fantastic destination. They've been growing grapes there for donkey's years, but really, actually, in terms of sort of successful wine growing, it's really only in the last 25 years, 25, 30 years that it's actually exploded. And I know that for a fact, because having previously worked for the Conran Restaurant Group, I remember when one of our restaurants called Cantina del Ponte opened around about 1995, I think, and we actually had Sicilian wines on the menu. And as my lovely younger sister said, well, we were, Conran was cutting edge, and he was cutting edge at that time.
So Sicilian or orange?
Sicilian wines. So we're just talking about Sicily now. So Sicily, as I said, they've been producing grapes, but mostly table grapes. Remember, that whole big white area that you're looking at is pretty much covered in table grapes. If you drive from one side, from the north to the south, you just go through these plains and plains of table grapes, over and over and over again. But as far as wine producing regions are, there's four major ones. The bottom, what do you call it? Northeast corner is the main grape producing area for reds. And the area where this wine comes from is over on the west coast, in the sort of the middle of the yellow bit on the very west side. That's the left. Anybody who doesn't know the west from east.
Yeah, speaking colours, that's much easier.
But going back to the growing conditions, so it's a lovely, Mediterranean, very dry, kind of arid environment. This is produced at sort of 3 meters above sea level. So it's sort of slightly cooler in the evening. So it prolongs the growing season, which means it's more even growing. But they don't have to sort of, protect themselves from nasty little bugs or whatever, because it's a very dry, arid sort of climate. So there is no sort of rot as such.
So very lucky,
which adds to the fact that they can be organic. Yeah.
There's a good question here actually from Katrina. Why does it say contain sulfites if it's all natural? The sulfite subject. It's a good call.
I hope there's like 40 people that can answer that question actually, because
surely everyone's been listening.
Because sulfites are a byproduct of fermentation. Therefore, every wine contains sulfites. Got it?
Da, da, da. And also, even with organic wine production, a small amount of added sulfites are permitted.
Yeah.
Also can be a very, very good thing.
Yeah.
In small amounts. More sulfites in your average homemade chicken Caesar salad with all the leaves and everything than you'd have in your average glass of wine.
Sulfites are not a bad thing. They're a little sticking plaster. They're kind of like a fungicide in the vineyards. Essentially, they protect the grapes from everything really, mostly from oxidation, and your wine going off. And used in really small doses, they're fabulous. And obviously with organic wines, they tend not to have any added sulfites, but the natural sulfites are always there because they're a byproduct fermentation. Bish, bash, bosh.
So almost self-preservation in a way.
That's
and
right.
another good question from Tom. So asking about organic orange wine. Sorry.
It makes my face go a bit orange, actually.
Because I think that might just be all the orange that's knocking them out. Tom was saying, if you literally just pop a creverie in the ground and chuck your grapes in, is it a cheaper startup and production cost?
Well, it depends who's going to dig the hole, I suppose. If you're prepared to dig the hole, why not?
But actually, with wine generally, and tell me if you agree with this or not, or hopefully you will. With wine generally, volume makes it cheaper.
Yeah.
And less intervention
Yeah.
does still cost an awful lot of money to manage those vines, get enough grapes in order to justify
it goes back to
bottling.
Exactly. It
selling.
goes back to the supermarket buyers demanding volume because they need volume, and going into the vineyards and demanding that the wine, the viticulturalist is actually ensures that his vines are producing more fruit. With a winery like this, they're going into the vineyard and they're actually probably stripping the vine of a certain amount of fruit, basically a triage process, getting rid of the non-essential, but basically concentrating what they're left with. So they want quality over quantity, whereas the supermarkets or the whole world needs volume. That's the difference.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
But there'll never be that sort of demand, I say, for this kind of wine, because it is very much more niche. Although
it is an interesting point, though, actually, because when we were in South Africa in January, we went to one of the massive cooperatives. In fact, we were just driving past one of the massive cooperatives in the Robertson area, and I think you said to me, "Blimey, look at those tanks." And bear in mind, this is a cooperative, and there were tanks in the sky almost.
Yeah, they were like 20 meters tall.
Are they fermentation tanks? And I think, oh my God, they are. And of course, they're out there exposed to the sunshine, which is beating down.
It's like 35
degrees.
degrees,
We were there
40
35, 40 degrees. And of course, the only way to actually control that is to chill them. And it used to be that they basically run cold water over the outside, and you could see it just like condensing. Now they've kind of they work as fridges.
Crazy.
So it's actually ridiculously expensive for a cooperative wine, essentially, that's going to be selling at bugger all money.
So here was my thing on my other point.
Right.
So actually, believe it or not, we talk about orange wines not being particularly commercial, and they're having this very, very niche following. Yeah. However, where there is a supermarket, a discount supermarket chain who have listed, and I've not seen it, and I only found out about this recently.
Because you don't go in there.
No, we should buy it and try it. So Aldi have got an orange wine on their list, which is $5.99.
Bloody hell, really?
Yeah. Wow. So don't ask me how they're managing to produce it.
Scary.
This is like mass-produced, really, really natural wine. So it'll be interesting to see. But just if we flip back to Sicily for a minute, because actually Sicily is a really interesting country.
Yeah.
And we said, and everybody should know by now, that Italy is the biggest volume producer in the world, country-wise. So Sicily within Italy is huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's the fourth biggest producing region. But it's responsible for an awful lot, which is not. No, we shouldn't really. It's not one to advertise.
Well, actually,
an awful lot of bulk, cheap end wine. Is where Sicily is responsible for.
Yeah. And how much do they bottle?
They only bottle 20% of what they produce in the whole island. Yeah. So the rest is
volume, is bulk shipped
in your petrol.
So only 20% of which is produced in Italy is bottled. 80% is actually bulk shipped out for bottling elsewhere. So it really is, glugging wine. And of course, there is a domestic market. So the great variety in this wine, you've probably never even heard of it, is, there it is, Catarratto. 100% Catarratto, which actually is one of Italy, not just Sicily, one of Italy's biggest wine grapes that they produce. And yet probably the majority of people have never heard of it.
No one's ever heard of it.
You
Yeah.
spelt it wrong on the tasting note.
Oh, well, see, I never heard of it. I have heard of it, but they've got some quite Sicilian.
So roll over Pinot Grigio. This is. But actually, Catarratto is not known for producing, massive wines of like exquisite sort of maturing potential. They don't make fabulous wines. But what it does make is this fabulous orange style wine. It does need a bit of winemaker intervention to control it a little bit. And the nice thing about this Baglio is that they are controlling it. So they are going through all the processes, but they are controlling the temperature. They're being selective in the vineyards, and yeah. What else was I going to say? What else was I going to say?
I'm just doing the aubergine roll experiment with the cheese bread. Sorry, the khachapuri really softens.
Good.
I mean, you mentioned sorry. Pairing part
Just
of
reading
this.
my notes actually. Oh yes,
No, it's aubergine rolls absolutely delicious.
So there is one thing that we have not said in actual fact, but I hope everybody's got the gist of this now. Just to reiterate that orange wine is not made from oranges. It is. A lot of people do think that orange wine's made from orange. It is not. It is made from grapes.
That's a starter fact. That's an opener.
And it's I know, and it's also not associated with blue wine. And dare we even go down the blue wine route? Oh my God! Don't worry about blue wine.
Where was it? We saw a blue Chardonnay recently.
Oh God!
Remember, it was blue like your mouthwash.
Just to let you know, blue wine is made from red wine grapes and white wine grapes, and it's got blue pigments added to it to make it blue. Forget it.
Yeah, it's a colour that doesn't exist in the new dimension.
And I haven't got a blue top.
We do have blue tops. So another important thing that we should mention about Sicily, and actually not so much where this particular wine is produced, because as we saw on the map, it's way out to the west. But in the east of Sicily, there's an angry mound.
Oh, there is.
There's an angry mound.
There is.
Called Mount Etna.
Yeah.
And that yields a volcanic soil, probably still slightly volcanic over to the west, but there's a lot of vineyards right at the bottom of Mount Etna, and
mostly red.
And volcanic wines is another really interesting topic.
Yeah.
So we list wines from
Occhipinti,
who is Mount Etna, also from the Canary Islands.
Ooh, Taginasta,
yeah.
which is also volcanic.
Yeah. And the vines grow in a sort of basket formation, and these are stunning wines.
Yeah.
The wines of Santorini in Greece.
Yeah.
These have all benefited from the really, really mineral-rich soils.
Yeah.
And it does produce a slightly different type of wine. And we will do a volcanic, maybe a volcanic Sunday. We might be able to just wear orange again. That would work.
That would be fun. Because it's kind of interesting, Etna, because somebody said to me this recently, in actual fact, the people of Sicily, they're never happier than when Etna is actually erupting. And the reason being is that they know exactly where they are when it's erupting. It's when it's not erupting that it causes concern. So it has been erupting recently. I don't know how regularly it erupts. A lot.
Yeah, it's active, really.
But the Occhipinti that we list is from the foothills of Mount Etna. It's red. It's called Nero d'Avola, is the grape variety. These wines are expensive to produce because it's very difficult winemaking conditions, or viticultural conditions, I should say. But as Jude said, which
is why the growing bit, by the way,
the minerality that comes out of volcanic activity really produces wines that are, well, they're kind of just like unusual. Well, they're not even unusual; they're just a little bit different, but no less fruit. Lovely fruit.
They're just fed with different stuff. Really.
Yeah.
Probably like comparing us to like a Greenlander.
Yeah. So what else about this? So Catarratto, going back to the grape variety this wine is made from, the majority of Catarratto is used to produce Marsala. So I'm sure people have probably got some dodgy bottle of something or other in their cabinet. You can go and have a look now. It's either going to be a Marsala or a Madeira or some form of dodgy old port.
Scary thing, leaking out the cork. Yeah.
But this is what Sicily is known for, and that's what Catarrate was previously known for. So it is unusual to find. It's probably best to look for Catarrates as orange wines, because without the sort of the oxidative appley nature of it produced in an orange manner, it's quite a neutral grape variety. It's not a big sort of big hitting,
That's the whole point of this. You'll see the word skin contact now. It's a very sort of fashionable phrase, but essentially this wine spent 3 days, I think, on its skins. Yeah. Some orange wines spend up to a year. Yeah. They're the really weird ones.
And also because it's on the skins, it's got some level of tannin. So you can probably get that dryness on your tongue. And because it's got tannins in there, it lasts a lot longer. So it actually has a little bit of aging potential.
Yeah, true. Like your reds.
On the other hand, because it's oxidized, it's but actually once you've opened it, it will hold for a lot longer than a normal white wine.
We're not going to bother testing that, though.
No, I don't think so. The nice thing is what's the alcohol?
12.5. So it's nice and light. Tom's asked a really
falls into the wrong contras category then.
Indeed. Tom's asked a really good question, which is, would you ever get a UK orange wine? Now, I don't know of one being produced.
Not intentionally.
We have.
Intentionally.
We have visited a biodynamic vineyard down in Sussex, who aren't making orange wine and are, I think, still honing the quality end of the production. But no, we haven't seen orange wine here.
No, but interestingly, Tom, the Davenport, which was the wine that we showed last Sunday, I think, the English wine tasting. English, Welsh, Scottish, not British wine tasting. So Davenport was the first winery in the UK to be certified organic. So they're producing wines totally organic. But anybody who tasted it would probably agree. It was light, it was fresh, and it was ripe, and it was delicious. It's not an orange wine. It's not oxidized. Totally different.
But again, this particular wine is a really good example of why orange wine doesn't have to be really oxidized. I mean, this is rich and opulent. The skin contact has given it more character and backbone, and it goes really well with food. Actually, I've just had it with one of the aubergines, and I think it's a really good combo. And I didn't get the acidic thing.
I really love it, actually. I just love that marmalade-y sort of like muscatty kind of like aromatics. It's nice. What else was going to say? Oh yes, so going back to filtration, the reason why it's cloudy, so it hasn't been filtered, it hasn't been refined, it's had nothing. Is it good for vegans? Yes, it's acceptable for vegans. It's had no intervention whatsoever. And just this filtration thing for anybody who's a vegan out there. Oh God, one day, do you think I'd be a vegan? I couldn't be a vegan. Oh, I might be a vegetarian or pescatarian.
No, you wouldn't.
But anyway, vegan wines are essentially wines that have been filtered using possibly a non-animal based process. Imagine a stainless steel mesh as a filter. Vegan wines are filtered through stainless steel mesh. Non-vegan wines are more traditionally filtered using egg whites, because egg whites work as a fantastic binding agent. So all the sort of the nasty sort of the lees and then the impurities basically bind with the egg whites, and just you take it out and it's clear.
Brilliant, wonderful stuff. And then you can make your creme pat.
Fish bones. Somebody came into the office the other day and said, why do they use fish bones? Absolute crunched up fish bones. Because they're a fabulous filter system.
It's a substance called isinglass, which is in them, which is so particularly good at drawing out debris.
And the other one that I've seen, and it was incredibly brilliant, but very time consuming, was using volcanic ash, would you believe, as a filtering process, and that was made in used in one of the top Chablis producers. I'm not sure whether they use it anymore because it's probably slightly concerned for sort of carcinogenic issues.
so you don't need
A
that.
brilliant filtering system leaves your wine lovely and clear. But again, this hasn't had anything. So yes, it's perfect for vegans.
Yeah, if it's not filtered, then that's your only worry. Otherwise, it's just grapes. That's all it needs to be.
Yeah,
it has to be said. It isn't always with the big mass-produced, big brands who need to maintain a really consistent, flavor and taste and everything. There's an awful lot of jiggery pokery goes on with the winemaking, from adding acids to colors to sugar. It really isn't necessarily just a glass of fermented grape juice, which is why natural wine is so good and why organic wine is really a good place to go.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of orange wine because it generally means it is probably pretty natural. And it's
right.
good for you.
Okay. All right. So then now we're just going to pop up. I just noticed a question come up. What about ice wine? We're not going to go off at a tangent and talk about ice wine today, Samantha Jones, but we will talk about it at some point.
Should we do a dessert wine Sunday? That's dangerous.
But let's stay on the case.
Sorry.
So this is where Jude and I sometimes disagree, actually, because she's probably a little bit more open-minded. I'm a bit more of a...
It has been said.
long in the tooth. But certain orange wines, they can get a little bit weird. This is not weird at all. I think the fruit is really lovely. It's still nice and fresh. It gives us blah, 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 blah. But at an extreme, if you imagine them at the extreme of the spectrum, I mean, they really do sort of, have a weirdy, beardy texture and arguably can often taste of scrumpy.
There's been likened
they do.
No, I don't deny. And I've been likened to kind of craft beers. Sometimes when you open a craft beer, I had one which had something to do with sourdough, and I was just intrigued, and it was bloody awful. Actually, it tasted like your sourdough starter diluted with fizzy water.
Yeah,
but there is a market for these things. It's a very natural movement.
But be careful. So this wine is at 15.75. I think it's probably decent enough value.
I think it's great value, yeah. I think it's fantastic.
But if you do if we ever get to a restaurant again and you go up to Hoxton or East London area, you will probably find these and they will be incredibly expensive. So be careful.
Even South London. In fact, yesterday I went to Spa Terminus in Bermondsey to collect our lovely Georgian...
That's east.
Yeah, it is east. Yeah,
southeast.
To collect our lovely Georgian... food from the Russian Revels ladies, and there are a couple of wine stores there which are devoted to biodynamic and really weirdy beardy.
Yeah. So
if you want to go down that route, then that's where to go. But as you know, with us, Hannibal Brown, we like wines that we don't do really unusual. We don't do super expensive. We do wines you can afford to open, and that hopefully you'll go, wow, I like that.
But also clean and ethical. And I was just reading something. I just managed to find a fantastic book that I read many, many years ago. And I thought, where's that book? And I just found it. I was just interested to read just very quickly that between 1991 and 1996, so 25 years ago, there were 539 reported acute poisonings from Californian vineyards, some Californian wines. Now that 539 compared to 399 in the cotton and 309 in broccoli. So in the mid 90s, vineyards this was with spraying and, spraying of insecticides and pesticides and that and the other, and where people were actually naturally getting poisoned. It was horrendous. And actually at the time, conventional vineyards accounted for over 75% of agricultural herbicides and over half of all pesticides, which is frightening, really.
Yeah.
But things have changed and things have come on hugely. And this really wasn't around in 1995. It really wasn't. So, these guys have only been producing this the last 6-7 years. Possibly a little bit longer. So whereas we say that 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, this is how it was. Well, they didn't have any pesticides or herbicides, did they? They had sulfur. That was it.
Yeah, and then and the key with orange wine is, and they left the juice on the skins to pull out a bit more flavour and a bit of which I think is what everyone needed. Then Finn is snoring, Tom. He's dropped.
Wait till it really gets going.
He's dropped right off. I hope you guys are still with us. We have to give a quick shout out to Thursday, actually, because this is definitely time. So on Thursday is Amadeus, which is
crazy
Austrian night.
Yeah.
So we've got two absolute corker Grüne Veltliners.
Totally different to one another.
Really, really stunning. They're both quite special.
And what are we feeding them?
Well, we're having crab cakes with a slightly Asian twist.
Yes.
But actually, anything Asian, if you were to do sushi, there's a range of flavors. It can even go chicken and pork. Grüne Veltliner is really good, and these two are they're not weighty, but they can stand up to it.
Grüne Veltliner, I've probably mentioned this before. Grüne Veltliner is a sommelier's dream because it pairs so well with food. What did you say? If you can't get crab, what should you use?
Oh, I haven't tried it yet, but I think you could probably mince up some prawns.
Prawnies, yeah.
Whiz them in your chopper.
And you might find they're a little bit cheaper than crab.
Dab them a little bit dry, and you can substitute them. But it's a really lovely combination, and they're delicious.
So that's Amadeus on Thursday at 7:00, and then next Sunday, life wouldn't be life without mentioning the rosé.
Oh, rosé part deux.
Rosé part deux.
No,
yeah, we're coming back to rosé because there's so much to talk about rosé, and the sun will be shining again next Sunday, I promise. And that's at 6:00. And what was the other thing we were going to talk about this evening?
Just think of that while I'm just looking at Emma's question.
DIY tasting kits.
Go on.
And our subscription. Yes, since I mentioned the subscription on the last occasion, people have sort of pricked up their ears and gone, oh, so remember, if you're buying wine off us or you want to buy sort of fairly regularly, then we've got an incredibly flexible subscription, which is, either 6 bottles or 12 bottles. We might even do 3 bottles if you twist our arm.
We do 3 bottles. It's on the website.
Oh, we do we?
3, 6 or 12 bottles every 1, 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
It's always a selection. We'll tailor it. As you feed back to us the sorts of thing you do or don't like, we'll always tailor it.
Yeah.
On a normal day, you'd also receive free tickets to all of our quarterly wine tastings, which are here in Southwest London. But
at the moment, we're doing them free.
We are, even better. And then you also get 10% off everything else you buy with us. So it's a really good deal, but also it just keeps you topped up. So do have a look online. It's our Explorers Wine Club.
Somebody planted the idea that we should be charging people. We won't. Don't worry. We won't.
We're not so business-minded.
We should be.
Emma just wanted to know if we would choose orange wine over some of the lovely whites and reds that we've tasted. Now, the reason that orange wine has only just cropped up probably answers that question. Our range is around about 120 wines, all of which we really do love, and we taste them as often as we can. But obviously, as vintages change, things change. And we love all of those wines, and we really only list one orange, and that is because we've struggled to find the really approachable side of orange wine that isn't super expensive, super funky, or a combination of the two, I suppose. So I would always recommend this if you were going to have something Asian, brilliant, or something, even pork dishes.
I think the thing is actually, there's a wine for every moment, and people often ask me, and they say, oh, what's your favorite wine? Well, it really depends on how I feel on the day, what time of the day it is, what I'm eating, if I'm eating. I tend not to drink red wine without food. That's just me. I know lots of people who drink red wine without food. I know people that put their red wine in the oven to warm it up. I know people that put their red wine in the fridge to cool it down. It really doesn't matter. It's down to individuals. And so I think orange wine, just as any wine, it's a world of different wines out there, and it's so boring if you just drink Sauvignon Blanc at the end of the day.
Oh, Pinot Grigio isn't.
Or Pinot Grigio. Do not drink Pinot Grigio.
But this is the answer: food.
Fodder.
Getting your food and wine combos sorted makes the whole experience just totally transformed. So get your crab cakes or similar made for next week. I really recommend. These are delicious and have been a perfect accompaniment to the Caterato.
Yeah.
So the Badrujani and the Khachapuri. Visit the Russian Revels ladies' websites. Katrina and Karina, lovely ladies, and that really
Thank you, Russian Revels.
Yeah, really is stunningly delicious, and I hope everyone else who has tried it agrees.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop them, and the dog's gonna get them if I'm not careful.
Right.
But so,
have we got any other questions that we need to go? I don't know. Is it time?
So.
It's probably time.
But so we've just got to recap. Amadeus, Austrian night on Thursday. There's loads of time to get the wines in. Give us a shout. We'll get them to you.
Oh yeah.
Recipes on the website.
Yeah. I've got a wine.
Oh,
I've got a wine.
Like a moan.
I just want a little shout out actually for a wine that I never shout about actually. And dare I say, ooh, it's a Prosecco. Oh, yes, it's a Prosecco.
Oh,
Prosecco Sacchetto, white, brut non-vintage. Give it a go. It's nice.
It is nice. Okay, there we go. An unusual Prosecco plug.
I don't often push.
Have you received some sort of plug? Are you some sort of influencer now?
I just had a little nip of it this week and thought, do you know what? That's not bad. It really isn't. It's on the website. Go and check it out. Sacchetto from Prosecco. Brut non-vintage.
Nice.
The white one.
It's a head and shoulders above a lot of big brown bubblies.
So, right. So it's greener. Go onto the website, HannibalBrown.com. Remember, Father's Day is still coming. Grab your personalised bottle of wine, personalisedwinedesign.co.uk.
21st of June.
Give us a shout. Get your lovely photograph on a bottle of wine and make your father love you if he doesn't already.
Or at least write you into the will.
Okay.
So we hope you've all enjoyed orange wine. I hope you've all enjoyed the wine. And if you haven't, then I hope at least it's been a learning experience.
Please do give us a thumbs up if you like it. If you don't, it's fine. It's, it's just it's a topic of conversation that we wanted to bring to you, and we wouldn't be doing our job if we weren't.
And I recommend going out and trying more and being adventurous with it, because do you know what? It's interesting. It's an exploration, and that's what we're all about.
Does it give you a headache? No, Sam, it doesn't give you a headache. It is as natural as it possibly can.
I think she's talking about the Prosecco, possibly.
Well, depends how much you drink.
And on that note, we're off to finish this bottle. So happy Sunday, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us. Remember, share.
See you in Austria. I'm just going to go and polish my lederhosen.
Oh, yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.